stigma in every direction. Kept him light and forced to fight or stop the night like a barracuda. So fresh and clean, incandescent dream. Lipstick, brandy, and eye sheen. What does it mean? Rainbow gasoline. Sometimes I really like it. Kept him light and forced to fight. We secretly made poets of pleasure. Hungry nights in neon nights, and just a rainbow of day glow flavors. Lipstick, brandy, and eye sheen. What does it mean? Rainbow gasoline. A stigma in every direction. In every direction. Rainbow gasoline. A stigma in every direction.
Hello and welcome to Nigeria, the road to 2019, a series of programs where Arise News places the audience and the choice at the heart of our coverage of the upcoming presidential elections. I'm Charles Anyiagolu. Coming up in the next 60 minutes, all the news, comment and analysis that provide unrivaled insight into Nigeria 2019, including what will be the fate of the Islamic Movement of Nigeria as the 2019 elections approach. Its leader, Ibrahim El Zakzaky, has been incarcerated since 2015, and hundreds of its followers have reportedly died in clashes with security forces. We'll take a closer look at a group that some say poses a major security threat in the run-up to 2019. And later, as Atiku Abubakar and his opposition PDP kick off their election campaign amid much enthusiasm from supporters, we ask whether this type of political powerhouse carnival event will be enough to deny President Buhari and his APC party a second term in office. So, while much international attention has been focused on the Sunni-dominated Islamist group Boko Haram operating mainly out of Nigeria's northeast region, a Shia group known as the Islamic Movement of Nigeria, or IMN, has been steadily growing in the country's northwest zone and increasingly causing anxiety within government security circles. In recent years, the once tiny movement's membership has skyrocketed in size and scope, and so has its inflammatory rhetoric, condemning Nigeria's ruling powers as discredited and refusing to recognize them. Its leader, Sheikh Ibrahim El Zakzaky, became a proponent of Shia Islam around the time of the Iranian Revolution in 1979. Events in Iran encouraged him to believe that such an Islamic revival was also possible in Nigeria. Since then, his followership has continued to grow, but so also has the heavy-handed crackdown he's attracted from the Nigerian government. In 2015, after violent clashes between the army and the movement, in which scores of people were killed, members of the group, including their leader Ibrahim Zakzaky, were taken into custody and have remained behind bars ever since. But with the group repeatedly taking to the streets to demand the release of their leader, and with each protest ending in violence, there are fears that it could all come to a head in the run-up to the 2019 elections. Well, to get the inside track now from the Islamic Movement of Nigeria, I'm joined now in the studio by two activists who are prominent members of the group, Mohammed Awal and Abdullahi Musa. Thank you very much indeed to both of you for coming in. We appreciate that very much indeed. And just very quickly, describe for me the Islamic Movement of Nigeria.
Islamic Movement of Nigeria, welcome sir. Islamic Movement in Nigeria is a mass movement led by Sheikh Ibrahim El Zakzaky, who has been calling for the unity of the people of Nigeria. Being you Christian or Muslim or whatever you believe in, Islamic Movement is calling on you to unite and provide a conducive atmosphere for the citizens of this country. And at the same time, the movement is totally against tyranny and oppression. And as such, anybody that is involved in the acts of tyranny and oppression and illegal killing of innocent citizens, the movement is totally against that. And I think that is why so many of the governors will always attack the Sheikh, because he's always against tyranny and oppression, and he's speaking against all this political violence. And he has been calling on his followers to consider all Christians and other people within the country as brothers and sisters in humanity. So many people are against this, and that is why they always challenge, to the extent they attack him and his followers and kill so many.
But I mean, let me ask you this. He says that the group is for the unity of ordinary Nigerians. I mean, if that is the case, how has it come to this? How did things deteriorate to this level where people are being killed and violent protests are taking place all the time and people are being arrested?
Well, the protests are not violent. Actually, they are not violent. We usually used to stage our protest in a peaceful manner, in a very organized way, until when the security forces decided to attack the protest. Actually, we are not carrying any weapon, so we cannot be violent. If the security forces attack us, then at least some of us are resisting. Some of us will be pursuing the security. So while the mainstream media used to report this as a clash, actually it's not a clash.
You see it as an attack on you?
Yes, it is an attack.
Right.
You could not clash with someone with a gun, with a water cannon and a tear gas while you have nothing. So it is an attack, and we are not violent, actually. You couldn't just descend on someone, start beating him, and when maybe he blows you back, and then you will call him violent. No, that is not the case. So
let me ask you this, Mohammed. Why do you think the government of President Buhari perceives your movement as a threat?
Yes, I think since it is high time to say it clearly, I have this belief that the government, the president, was influenced by some foreigners to attack the movement. Like I do see, in sometimes April 2018, there was an interview with the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman in a Times magazine in America, where they asked him about the achievement of Saudi Arabia in the whole world, especially in Africa, 2018, 2015, and he has this to say, that one of the great achievements of Saudi Arabia's regime in 2015 was the attack of the Shiite in Zaria. That is what he says, and the detention of the leader of the Islamic movement.
So
in
basically,
order to suppress the Iranian ideology, influence in Africa.
Because obviously they're competing with the Iranians,
yes, and
competing ideologies.
And the president himself was asked in I think
Qatar.
in Qatar in sometime March 2016. He was asked about the detention of the leader of the Islamic movement and the killing of innocent souls in Zaria, and he has this to say, that he's afraid of the separate of the Iranian revolutionary ideology in Africa. So with the statement by the Saudi Crown Prince and the answers given by the president of Nigeria to Qatar television, it's clear to the whole world that this killing was influenced and was sponsored by Saudi Arabia.
And if you say that Saudi Arabia sponsors attacks on you, to what extent are you getting support from the opposing side, which is the Iranians?
I think this question has been answered in several occasions. I think people should sit down and reason with this. There was never any support from Iran to the movement. The only relationship between Iran and the Islamic movement was, I think, ideological relation. Just like I do say, the Catholic Church in Christianity, they are related in ideology with Rome. Does that mean that Rome sponsored activities of Catholic Church in Nigeria? Saudi Arabia was related to the Sunni group in Nigeria to the extent the Saudi visited their places here in Abuja. Does it mean that Saudi Arabia is sponsoring the activities of Sunni? Even though they accept it, they have said it severally in media that they have given a lot of money to establish some media houses in order to quench down the growing of the movement, of the Islamic movement,
right,
and
but
promote the Sunni, the Wahhabi activities in Africa, in Nigeria in particular.
Right.
So does it mean that having a relation with a country in times of ideology, does it mean that the country sponsor your own activities? So these are questions Nigeria need to come into. Even to the extent, shamelessly, the spokesperson of the Nigerian army, after killing of about 50 people on last month at Kobo checking point, he has this to say. When he was interviewed, he was asked a question by DW media. He was saying, he has this to say that the movement has been sponsored by Iran. These are the only reason they have been saying. Okay, if Iran is sponsoring the movement, does it warrant the killing of people that share the same ideology with Iran?
Right. Let me ask you this, Mohammed, isn't it? Has the Islamic Movement of Nigeria ever taken up arms against the Nigerian state? Because we hear that you go through military drills. I mean, you train your people in readiness, as it were, for some form of combat. Maybe it hasn't happened, but that you anticipate will happen. Have you ever taken up arms? Do you have arms and ammunition?
Okay. In this case, this movement has been around for like 40 years now.
I actually met Ibrahim El Zakzaky when I was a BBC correspondent. I traveled from England and I went to Zaria.
Good.
And I went to his house and I met him there. So, but even at that time, the military government, I think it was the government of Babangida or somebody, perceived him as being a threat.
Yeah.
So this idea of a threat has been there for a long time.
Yeah, the idea has been long, but that does not in any way sustain the claim by the government. We have been around for like 40 years, you know. We have never even carried a stick or a knife against Nigerian security. Well, they said we are going through drills, which is military in nature. So even if we are going drills, you can't just shift a group of youths that have a lot of activities, but educational and extracurricular activities, without giving them physical training, among other things. They have to go through physical training. So I don't know what makes that physical training to be a military drill, because actually we are not carrying any weapon, even stick. So the Nigerian government are always looking for excuses to attack the movement, because the nature of the calling of Sheikh Zakzaky, his preaching is against tyranny and oppression and this rampant corruption, which is
right. But beyond the corruption, does your leadership refuse to recognize the constituted authority within Nigeria?
Well,
in other words, do you refuse to recognize President Buhari as the president, Mohammed El Rufai as the governor of Kaduna State? Do you refuse to recognize constituted authority like that?
No, I don't think this is not a straight question. But we are not in any way saying they are not, like in the case of Buhari, that he is not the president. He's the president, and we are Nigerian citizens. We are using Nigerian passports. We are going to Nigerian universities. We are going to Nigerian courts. If we have any problem with other citizens, we are going to Nigerian securities to solve the problems. Then I don't understand what you mean by.
Well, I'm asking you a question that's been put out there, that you simply don't recognize constitutional authority.
Yeah, actually, the people asking such questions should answer this.
Right, okay. Well, let me ask you this, Abdullahi. I understand that when President Buhari was running for office in 2015, he actually sought the advice of Sheikh Zakzaky and had a public meeting with him. Is that a fact?
No, I have never seen him meeting Sheikh discussing issue of, although I am not always in the residence of the Sheikh.
Right.
Maybe I should take this.
Okay.
Yeah, actually the Sheikh advised Buhari
right
on some measures, like he should.
So he met Buhari?
No, actually they met like in two public occasions.
Right.
I think there is a launching of one Professor Dahir Yahya. They met there. And I think somewhere.
And that was during the campaign or before the last election?
No, it's not during the campaign. It is before the campaign.
Right, okay.
So the Sheikh.
Do you remember what year that was?
No, I couldn't recall the year.
But what advice did Sheikh Zakzaky give him?
Yes,
was it political?
After Buhari was elected, before he was inaugurated, Sheikh Zakzaky advised him that he should reject the Nigerian security.
He should do what?
Reject the Nigerian security.
If he's elected?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
No, actually, then he was elected.
Okay, so he met him after he became president?
He made the advice in the public. It's one of our programs.
Right.
That he was advising the president to reshuffle the security, and he should take some proactive measures that will counter the so-called insurgency.
Right.
Because we didn't believe it is a real insurgency.
You mean in the northeast?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So the Sheikh is accusing the Nigerian security forces of creating artificial insurgency. So the Sheikh advised the president that if he is into the office, actually then he was elected, but he wasn't inaugurated. I think it's just a few months before he was inaugurated. The Sheikh give him this advice.
Right.
I think this is the only relationship.
Okay. Well, so here we are, Abdullahi. We've seen almost monthly protests recently from the Islamic movement demanding the release of the Sheikh. You've been fired upon, you've been water hosed and tear gassed, and some of your adherents have died in the process, many injured and many of them in jail. Yet Sheikh Zakzaky remains in jail, and the crackdown on the IMN shows no signs of stopping. How much has that bowed or broken your spirit?
I think the killing, the Sheikh has already said it sometimes back during July 2014 attack, where Nigerian security army attacked his the followers and killed 33, including 3 of his sons. The Sheikh has said it, that the more you touch us, the stronger we become, because we believe in what we are doing. So I think looking at the Abuja protests, seeking for justice, seeking for the freedom of the leader of the Islamic movement, you can see the more they attack the protesters, the more other people get more.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to understand is, what is that making you do? Because the reason I say that is that there have been comparisons made with Boko Haram in the northeast, where their leader was jailed and eventually died and all that, and that is seen as leading to the group taking a hardline stance. I'm trying to understand what impact all this might have, because a lot of people, especially people within the security, see you as being involved in a sort of low-level insurgency at the moment, and there is concern that you know, all this that is happening with you or to you is hardening your position and could make you go for something much more hardline.
Yes, I think Nigerians are to even give their self answer to these questions, that whether the movement is going to result in something like Boko Haram, when even the killing of the attack to the Boko Haram, meted to the Boko Haram by the Nigerian forces, I think it's not worse as that of the Islamic movement, where the army went in a daytime to the residence of the leader of the Islamic movement and killed over 1,000 of his followers. Some people were even burned to death, like his elder sister. She was 78 years old then. They locked her inside a room and set on fire until she died seeking for help. They made the sheikh, they killed his children before him, they shoot him, and for some months nobody knows the whereabouts of the sheikh. And we have the belief that these people, they come to kill him, because they have said it. I was there. A lot of the army officers have been saying, we are here to kill your leader. So we assume they have killed him. So many people have assumed that they have killed him, but it didn't resulted in taking arms. All we know that we know the people that are involved in killing our brothers. We know the people that order for the killings. And if there is anything, revenge or retaliation, it should be on those people that order for the killing.
Yeah, but when you say revenge and retaliation, do you mean going to having security forces arrest those people and having them prosecuted, or are you talking about you taking revenge on?
No, I'm saying, because when they say Nigerians have the fear that we are going to resort in taking arms, and what I'm saying, we have never given any thought by our leader to attack innocent people, or even our protests. We protest against the government's impunity. We didn't do anything that affected the masses.
I mean, there is evidence. I've seen video, I think, showing your people attacking civilian vehicles and people who are sort of out on the street that are not members of the security forces. I mean, you've burnt vehicles. You've essentially attacked civilians who are not part of it. I mean, we can see some of that in some of the videos and things.
What I'm saying, there is, in the issue of we attacking the masses or vandalizing people's vehicle, I think it is clear in July 2018 when the CP, the Commissioner of Police, the then Sadiq Bello, went to Channels TV and says they have their police officers with mufti within us. So we have we have been telling our people, and we have total control of our people. Anybody that you see involved in vandalizing people's properties is never a brother in the movement. It should be the security, because they want to justify what they did.
Right, okay. Well, let me bring you in there, Mohammed. Are you guys interested at all in the 2019 elections? Are you planning to play a role in those forthcoming elections to use, because I mean, you have quite a few members. Are you planning to use the power of your vote in that election?
Yeah, actually, this movement is a mass movement. There are a lot of supporters and sympathizers. And all these supporters and sympathizers are Nigerians. Some of them have their FBCs. They are not going to vote for Buhari comes 2019 because they are sympathizing with the movement. And within the movement, there are some people, actually in the ideology of the movement, we are not officially saying this one should be bought or this one shouldn't be bought. But actually, the members of the movement have collected PVCs, and they
and they're saying they're not going to vote for Buhari.
Yes,
right.
Actually.
Is there a political motivation for the Islamic Movement of Nigeria beyond the ideological that we all know as these elections approach?
I think he has said it all, that the movement is a mass movement, and there are a lot of categories of people within the movement. Some people are even politicians. They do contest for political offices, but it is their own opinion, not the
It's not the official line
of the movement. But a lot of people have collected PVC, as a lot of people, politicians who are involved in the movement, and they are members, so they can go ahead and vote him out or vote him in, but not officially from the movement. But you don't expect somebody that, as a sympathizer of the movement, with this brutality meted to the movement by the government, and you expect such a person that is a sympathizer or a brother in the movement or sister to vote for somebody who killed your brothers.
I understand that, but what I'm trying to determine, Mohammed, is that beyond the sense, as he pointed out, of political injustice and the need for some form of restitution, which clearly you're seeking, because he talked about, you know, revenge and all that sort of thing. I mean, are you also intending to use your voting clout to put the politicians seeking power on notice? And if you are, I'd like to get a sense of the numbers of people who are part of your movement and who sympathize. I mean, perhaps that's a broader question, but certainly what sort of membership have you got, if you were going to turn that into some sort of political clout, voting clout in the elections?
Well, if they say we are going to change anything by voting, and then we have that capability of changing, because actually we are not less than 5 million. Yes, we are not less than 5 million.
And you're concentrated in northern Nigeria? In
northern Nigeria.
Right, in the Muslim sort of...
Yes, in northern Nigeria. And
but you're Shia dominated?
Yeah, we are Shia. No, it is an Islamic movement. You see, there are these followers of the Rika sects. As that very day, one of your correspondent interviewers in one of our programs, actually there is an Izala scholar. He was Izala, despite the fact that Izala and other denominations are not in good terms, but still we are Muslims. Right. And there is this unity, and these people are supporting us against the injustice meted to us by the government. So you couldn't expect all these people to vote for this government that they are against, the very same government that they are calling it unjust government. So you couldn't expect these people to vote for that government. So that's it.
And I mean, beyond, you know, the other Muslim sort of groups, there's also, I mean, there's been a lot of condemnation coming from people like Amnesty International and so on, who say that you know, the killings are not sort of justified. We're almost out of time, but what is your final word to Nigerians here as those elections approach?
Yes, I think it is clear to Nigerians to see, with the brutality meted to the movement by the government, and with the influence of the foreigners influencing the authority to attack people that share different ideology with the government, and the presidency in particular took it and actualized it. So people should know that these people, they have this ideology that they believe that anybody that doesn't belong to their group, such a person is an infidel, and killing of such a person is what they term as jihad. So Nigerians should know that this government has brutalized a people because they share different ideology with them. Secondly, because they are against tyranny and oppression, they are calling for the establishment of a just society, a free society for people. And people should know this, that this is what actually happened. And by attacking us, you are expressing to people that this is a government of brutality, and maybe after the Shiite or the movement, it should be you. And there is one thing I want to clarify, the issue of revenge. Quickly. Okay, people have like the security forces, the army have been saying we want to revenge, and it's one of the reasons why they refuse to obey the court order and free the sheikh, because they are afraid of revenge. They should know that there is no way you kill people and you go free, but not the type of revenge they perceive. The court of law, we have went to court of law, and the law of this land must work and must prosecute those perpetrators of Zaria massacre. Okay,
Mohammed Awal and Abdullahi Musa from the Islamic Movement of Nigeria, thank you very much indeed to both of you.
You're welcome.
You're watching Nigeria, the road to 2019. Plenty more still ahead, including as Atiku Abubakar, the PDP's presidential candidate, launches his campaign in Sokoto. We assess whether Nigerians will heed the opposition's call to vote out President Buhari and his ruling APC party. Stay with us. Welcome back to Nigeria, the road to 2019. I'm Charles Anyiagolu. Now, as you may have seen, the Atiku Abubakar roadshow has taken off in the far northwest state of Sokoto, with his advisors calling it a powerhouse event. Amid the enthusiasm, and there was plenty of that, Mr. Atiku's supporters, along with thousands of members of his People's Democratic Party, or PDP, converged on the venue to see their candidate under the white-hot presidential campaign spotlight, all of it aimed at denying President Buhari and his ruling APC party a second term. But will this type of political campaign carnival and pointed rhetoric be enough to turn Nigerians against the incumbent leadership in 2019? Well, for more, I'll be speaking to two politicians. First, the politician, businessman, and the national chairman of the People's Democratic Movement, Bashir Yusuf Ibrahim, who's with me here in the studio. Thank you very much indeed for coming in. I know you don't want to talk about this, but I have to ask you, what was your sense listening to those two guys from the Islamic Movement of Nigeria and viewed against the upcoming presidential elections, which is an area that clearly you're involved with, and also the fact that security is a big issue in those upcoming elections. In that context, without getting you to directly respond, because I know you didn't want to what they were saying, what is your sense of the mood of this country as those elections approach?
Well, Charles, I don't mix politics with religion, and I'm not very conversant with the issues, so I'm not going to sit on national television and address an issue in which I'm not involved with.
But you are an essential part of the leadership of the north of this country. And this is something that is happening in the north, and the government of this country, as well as the security forces of this country, perceive it as a potential threat to the rest of the country. And you're a politician, you're the national chairman of a political party. Surely that must concern you.
Well, to be honest with you, if I know the issues and the extent and the true dimension of this problem, I would not run away from discussing it. I don't want to, just for the sake of talking, say something that I have no grasp of. So I'd rather not comment on it.
I understand that. It's just a little bit beggars belief, really, that you're a politician and you're essentially going to the Nigerians to solicit their support, and you're not aware of something that is a crucial part of the very fabric of not only Nigeria, but the northern part of this country.
I'm not saying I'm not aware.
You don't want to comment on it?
Yes, I'm saying I don't know the exact issues involved. So I don't want to talk about it.
Right, but clearly, I understand that. President Buhari, of course, has to run for office again, has said he's running for office again in 2019. Do you think that he feels he must clear up issues like this and other security issues because he could erode his support potentially in the north of Nigeria?
Well, as president, he should be concerned about everything. And if this is a security issue, as you say, he should be concerned about it. But he has advisors who should be able to advise him properly on how to deal with it, and I'm not one of them.
Right, but I don't mean to sort of to beat a dead horse, but I mean, do you believe that the Nigerian government currently is handling security issues properly? Because, of course, the lessons from the brutal insurgent group Boko Haram are too familiar to ignore, and surely you're aware of them.
I can say that we are secure, more secure today than we were 3 or 4 years ago. Driving around Abuja 3 or 4 years ago, everybody was afraid because a bomb could go off anywhere. That is not happening anymore. There are, of course, challenges, security challenges, the kidnapping that is going on, and a lot of highway bandits wreaking havoc across the country. But we don't have a potent insurgency as we used to. It's regrettable that a few weeks ago we've lost a good number of gallant soldiers. That's one of the prices that countries pay for fighting something like that. But I'm not a security expert, but in general, I think Nigeria is better out today than it was 4 years ago.
So what are the issues that matter most to ordinary people in the north of Nigeria? Is it the personality of the I mean, I'm saying that in the context of the fact that Atiku Abubakar has just had opened his campaign, as it were, in the far northwestern state of Sokoto. And I'm trying to gauge the kind of reaction to him in that part of Nigeria. Is it the personality of the candidates or what they say they are going to do? I mean, what's the political conversation about up there now?
Well, you see, the honest truth is this, that what matters to people in the northern parts of Nigeria matters to everybody in the rest of Nigeria. So I don't think there's any particular northern sentiment in this election, because all the leading candidates are from the north. They profess the same religion, they speak the same language. They're basically, in terms of identity, identical. So there's no sentiment now in this forthcoming election. So unless there are issues to do with the actual delivery of social goods and services, issues relating to the economy, and issues relating to political stability as a whole, an enabling environment for business. These are issues that both candidates will have to converse with the electorate. And they both have their own programs and manifestos. And the campaigns are supposed to have started about 8 days ago, 9 days ago. And we haven't had much from the candidates as a whole. So there's very little to judge or to go by in terms of what the candidates intend to do.
Right,
and 2019.
Sure. I mean, and just tell us a little bit about the People's Democratic Movement, of which you're the national chairman.
Yes, PDM has been a political movement since 1994.
Is it a political movement or a political party?
Later on, it metamorphosed into a political party.
Right.
But it was a political movement since 1994, which is 24 years ago. Attempted registration with the authorities, was never registered until 2013, which is just about 5 years ago. And since then, we've been focused on young people and women especially, because we believe these are the most marginalized citizens in this country, and hoping that we will appeal to their causes and to be able to be the vanguard for the transformation of this country through that kind of approach. And
has it made that sort of mark?
Well, in 2013, between 2013 to 2015, we had roughly about 5.4 million members, which was almost as many members as PDP had at that time.
That's a lot of members.
Yes, and these were verifiable numbers because we did membership registration, we issued membership cards, we had membership register. But after the 2015 election, so much changed. And Nigeria was moving more and more towards a two-party system. I can't tell you how many members we have today, but quite a bit of members. But we had only one elected position in the last election, which is not as bad as it sounds, because during the last election there were 29 political parties, and only about 7 or 8 had any elected members.
So what's the elected position?
Everywhere. What?
What's the elected position?
Well, we had a member in Bauchi, in the Bauchi House of Assembly.
Right. So a State House of Assembly.
Yes, State House of Assembly.
So what are you hoping to achieve? We're almost out of time, but what do you want to achieve in this election?
Well, our goal and target had always been a better Nigeria. And we are not even having a presidential candidate in this election. We didn't have in the last election.
Is there somebody you support?
Well, I am leading a coalition of about 35 political parties. And these political parties are going through internal processes to determine whether among the candidates...
Right, who you're going to give your support.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, I want to thank you very much indeed, Bashir Yusuf Ibrahim, for taking the time. I know you've got something to do, and I really appreciate your coming in. And of course, Bashir Yusuf Ibrahim is the politician, businessman, and national chairman of the People's Democratic Movement. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charles.
Indeed. And you're watching Nigeria 2019. There's plenty more still to come. Stay with us.
We are 198 million productive people with over 900,000 square kilometers of fertile land. Nigeria's banking system has emerged strong and resilient from the 2016 crisis, which has enhanced our productivity in agribusiness and manufacturing. Come, invest in Nigeria's agribusiness, manufacturing, and value-added mining. Enjoy the Central Bank of Nigeria-led initiatives in funding interventions, stabilized exchange rate, friendly capital repatriation regime, and many more. The Central Bank of Nigeria's robust monetary policy and interventions under President Buhari's administration and position the economy to target and attain a GDP growth of 6% with a strong and growing external reserves. Come, invest in Nigeria. Nigeria, ready for business.
Welcome back to Nigeria 2019. I'm Charles Anyiagolu. Let's speak now to the former Director General of the News Agency of Nigeria, and currently a communications expert and spokesperson for the People's Democratic Party Presidential Council, Akin Osuntokun. Thank you very much indeed for coming in. I hope I got that right, because you're looking to be a bit quizzically there.
No. It's just that I'm also a chief. No.
Oh, sorry, I missed that very important thing. What about doctor and prince and possibly king? No, I don't mean to be rude, but I mean, it's a real pleasure to have you here. You were at that opening campaign rally in Sokoto, weren't you?
No, I wasn't.
Okay, you were not there.
Yeah.
I was given the impression that you were there.
Well, I was in there. I had another.
But you were there in spirit, were you?
Well, I had another assignment, but I was adequately briefed.
Right.
As to what transpired there.
So based on your briefing, what was it like there?
Well, if money shows the day.
If what?
Money.
Money.
Shows the day.
Right.
Right. It will serve as an indication, of the kind of impact that the candidate is going to make. And I don't want to talk about catchment areas or something, but in any case, the governor there now is in PDP. But
it's a PDP state, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is why you went
originally, there. It was originally, APC was originally in control of it. So, of course, a lot was riding on it, the first outing, and the so-called strong catchment area for the political opponent. But then we don't see how it turned out. The huge crowd and the enthusiasm. And of course the statement, mission statement was laid out. And from here we have received a lot of expectations from all sections of Nigeria.
Well, obviously you chose to go somewhere where you expected to be well received. I mean, you went to a PDP state, which controls the machinery of government.
There's nowhere
that made it considerably easier for you.
No, there's nowhere we go that will not be well received. It was campaigns are subdivided into zonal campaigns, followed by state campaign. So the Northwest Zonal campaign, that was the choice. The choice for the Northwest Zonal campaign was Sokoto. But let me tell you, in my own estimate, if I were to project, I think we'll have had a better crowd in Kaduna. Apart from the relative popularity of the candidate and the party in Kaduna State, you know, in Kaduna there is proximity. Kaduna is much more central. That, for instance, a lot of people will have moved from Abuja easily to Kaduna. And
right. So why was the choice made to go to Sokoto?
Yeah, to prove a point.
Right.
Precisely that, you know, this is for real.
Yeah. Well, beyond the carnival, because I mean, it looked like, I actually saw the video, and I'm rather surprised that we don't have the video of the event, because we had a big video. I saw the video earlier. I mean, is Mr. Atiku capturing the imagination of the people of the North? Because I mean, that is Buhari's
well, that was what I
backyard.
said. Remember, that was actually my opening statement. You know, that yeah, the thing about Nigeria, look, as apart from being a politician, and I'm also a student of Nigerian politics. And in terms of the candidacy of those going for president, this is one of the safest presidential elections we can project in terms of divisiveness, in terms of bigotry and things like that. Because as the previous speaker said, you know, of course, Nigeria is still steeped in identity politics. But you look at the two leading candidates, they are Fulani Muslims. So there isn't much room for anybody to exploit
ethnicity or something.
Ethno-religious identity.
Right.
So that is it, and of course...
Although within the North itself...
But the reality.
Right.
I mean, you can't rule that out. It's the reality, of course, especially with the incumbent president.
Right.
You know, who rose to prominence, an election on the platform of being an ethno-regional champion, you know.
An original champion of?
Of the Muslim North. You know, that is his basic, you know, he has...
Right. Do you think that, well, I mean, you would think that, wouldn't you? But I'll ask you the question anyway. Do you think that is a disadvantage for him, and that Atiku, on the other hand, although he's a Muslim and he's a Fulani from the North, he has a greater sort of spread and therefore greater acceptability across Nigeria?
Yes, of course. You see, that kind of identity, you know, I thought that when he was given the privilege to become the president of the country, he will leave down that divisive identity. But he has not.
Well, I mean, I haven't seen him say anything that is divisive.
Then you have not been following.
Well, I have been following.
When he addressed Nigeria,
he goes to across the country. He visits different parts of the country.
President,
I don't see him saying. He was the
first president to address Nigeria in Hausa language. If Obasanjo had addressed Nigeria in Yoruba, and Jonathan.
How do you mean address Nigeria in
Hausa language? It was during the Salah festival. He recorded a message from his sick bed in London in Hausa language.
Yeah, but I mean, he also...
That is divisive.
But he also spoke to Nigerians, and every time I've heard him speak, he speaks in English.
Well, look, don't minimize what the gravity of that offense, right? So you can, at that critical, at that auspicious, you choose a segment of the population as deserving of your goodwill message as against the other. You shouldn't minimize that.
No, I'm not minimizing it. I'm simply saying that I've heard him talk in English all the time.
Well, I don't know what you mean by talking recently, in collaboration with the governor of Kaduna State, El-Rufai, who specifically stated that he went to the president when he was going to choose a Muslim running mate in a religiously volatile state as Kaduna is. And between both of them, that meant, that was I said, look, you know, this is building insecurity and crisis.
No, I understand that, but in the context of an election in 2019,
you shouldn't be bothered with an election.
No. Can I just make? Can I make the point?
Well,
in the context of the election in 2019, which is essentially what we are moving towards, and which essentially will be, beyond the rhetoric, the deciding factor about who occupies Aso Rock in 2019. Does that add or detract from his capacity to win considerable votes from his core supporters in the North?
That's a very cynical view of...
Well, I'm asking a question.
Well, that's how I choose to answer.
Yeah, of course.
And I'll go on. That's a very cynical view of Nigerian politics. You don't need to win. You don't need only to win. How you win also matters, because there are consequences for your governance. One of the reasons this government have been unsuccessful in developing the country is precisely because of this divisive politics. There is no way a divided country can move forward. Before you fight corruption, before you industrialize, you must have a country moving together, having shared aspiration, sense of duty, obligation and responsibility. Now, by the way, I've told people that, look, recession, political recession, distress, is not the problem of Nigeria, it's not the problem of any society. So long as you have the will to confront your problem, people can starve and still work for the success of their country. It depends on how committed, the motivation. That is what is lacking in Nigeria.
Okay, well, we're almost out of time.
Yeah.
Just before we go, what's the political landscape looking like right now following the start of that PDP campaign with that very large rally in Sokoto State?
The political landscape. Well, of course, as I said, this was in my opening statement. Look, it's a signal, down the road, going forward, of what Nigerians should expect. The turnout, of course, look, I made mention, and you referred to it, that is what that area is supposed to be the catchment area of, and precisely one of the reasons he chose that place to make a statement. So in any case, Ronald Reagan asked the Americans in 1980 when he was contesting, are you better off now than 4 years ago when Buhari was elected? This is the question Nigerians at the end of the day are going to ask themselves. In terms of your economic status, in terms of insecurity, in terms of bloodletting, in terms of aggravation of the cleavages in the country, I think in almost all sectors, Nigerians are now worse off. Even in their own areas of bragging rights, corruption, for instance, all credible, non-partisan international organizations have scored this government worse than its predecessor.
Okay, well, I appreciate your putting your party's points across, but then somebody would say you would say that, though, wouldn't you? But thank you very much indeed. And of course, that is the former Director General of the News Agency of Nigeria, currently a communications expert and spokesperson for the People's Democratic Party Presidential Council, Akin Osuntokun. Thank you very much. Chief. Well, that's it for this edition of Nigeria, The Road to 2019. Join us again for a fresh edition tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, bye-bye, and thank you for watching. Thank you very much indeed.